6. Bright Wolf. The Eagle's Nest, Pagman Mountains, north of Kabul, June 8th. "I am a Christian," said the German. He was talking to Khalil at the Eagle's Caves. "And it was that which made me come here, to do what I can. I did not come here to engage in religious activities, however." Khalil said, "I saw you being led away by the mullah at the caravanserai, under religious instruction, it seemed. What happened next?" "That did not last long," said the German, shaking his head slowly. "Because there are plenty of mullahs, alleged men of Islam, who support the communists. I suppose you told him that." "As a matter of fact, I did not. I did not know it at the time, so the airwaves are full of Kabul propaganda claiming that Islam and communism are the same," said the German. "Well then, what did you do to get away?" "When I was jumped in the Sarai, I didn't have a chance to say my piece. I had learnt a portion of the Quran specially to explain myself to the Muslims." But the Quranic recitation had not worked in the mullah's case. He wanted the German to start from the beginning, Chapter 1. The mullah's attempt to convert the German to the firm faith had, however, been frustrated by the lack of a common language, and by his determination to fight tyranny rather than the devil. After getting away from the mullah, which he had only managed to do by borrowing his donkey without permission, he had fled from the caravan. Now he kept going southwest, hoping to find a guerrilla band to join. The worst of the mountains were behind him, but even so his journey to the Pagman caves showed remarkable optimism and tenacity. 2 days later, passed from one way station to another, the German was installed in the Eagle's Nest, demanding to be trained for battle. Khalil had taken longer to find Kush. In Afghanistan, a man who spoke the language but did not know the name of his own tribe or his ancestral village was more than a curiosity. Khalil was determined, but had to wait until a man was sent to Pagman by his hosts at one village to find out exactly who this strange visitor might be. Adam Durrani had welcomed both the German and the Australian into the ranks of the resistance. Now they were trying to settle down. It wasn't easy. The Mujahideen were itching to fight, chafed at the discipline and the idleness, while Adam made plans and awaited specific information and arms for specific projects. It occurred to Khalil that he didn't know the German's name. "What are you called?" he asked. "I'm known as Khalil in these parts." "Me? My name is Bardolph. That means bright wolf, you know. But I can't be called such a name here. Wolves usually stand for the unpleasantness south of Turkestan. So they asked me what I should be called, so that people would be able to remember it. I chose, from what I have recited to you, to have myself called Shahid, the witness." "What's he talking about?" the blacksmith asked. The others nodded. They wanted to know too. "He's saying what his name used to be in Afghanistan." The baker laughed. "Yes, I've heard. I know what it was. It was Gurgi Roshan, bright wolf. It's quite crazy, really. How can you have a bright wolf? They don't shine at all. I've seen hundreds of them and they're always dull. It's like saying iron wool. Crazy." Khalil said, "But in the West, they do have a sort of iron wool. It's called steel wool, as a matter of fact." "In the West," said the blacksmith, "they're all crazy, as the baker said." "Crazy enough to drop everything and come to help you," said Khalil without thinking. The blacksmith stood up. "Help us to do what, you dog and son of a dog?" His face was contorted with rage, and his turban was falling off, a cascade of cloth over his right shoulder. "Help us to fight? To shed our blood? We know well enough how to defend our honor without people coming here and saying that they are helping us. The help we need is knowledge of surgery and medicines. We need arms, we need cartridges, we need technical skills. Where is this help?" He did well to call himself witness, for what he does is to witness the bravery of real men. He spat on his hands and paused, looking around wildly as if to seek more foes. The German looked puzzled. He wasn't a jumpy man. In fact, he was quite slow, both in movement and in speech. All the same, he was very large. He asked Khalil, "What's he saying?" "Yes, you tell him. Say it in your own dog's tongue. Wag, wag, that yelping nonsense," roared the blacksmith, still thoroughly aroused, as Khalil started to translate. The German said, "I don't see why he should be annoyed because we want to help him. I don't think I would be." "But I do see," said Khalil, "and I'm going to say I'm sorry. It was all my fault. Afghans won't accept help if there's any suggestion that they can't do their own fighting. The fact is that things are very bad for the Mujahideen just now. When all you have is your pride, you can't stand to be patronised." "But they do accept help. The tribes sometimes work together, don't they?" said the witness. "That's different. If they are allies, one helps the other. If they are not, they make a pact to share the victory. We aren't either. In fact, we are uninvited guests in their eyes, and pretty strange ones at that." The German was shaking his head over this when the blacksmith leapt. His arms caught Khalil on the shoulders and brought him down, half-winded, to the cave floor. Someone adroitly removed the daggers from the scabbards of the two men as Khalil rose, and the two, crouching, circled around, looking for an opening to attack. The blacksmith was a good 6 inches taller than Khalil and had very well-developed arms. But the Australian was lighter, probably fitter, and 10 years younger. The smith made a hideous grimace and flapped his arms up and down in the imitation of a bird of prey, a gesture of bravado so often seen at Afghan wrestling bouts. Khalil bared his teeth, and the appreciative audience cried out with glee. So far, nobody seemed to be backing either contestant. This was a fight, and it had to be stoked up before they would commit themselves. The two jumped and sprang forward and back until Khalil, tired of the preliminaries and his blood now up, moved back to prepare for a great lunge. Then he realized as his back hit the cave's wall that the smith had maneuvered him into a corner, was closing in. In a second, his great hands had closed around Khalil's throat, choking him. He felt his eyes actually bulging, as people said they did when being strangled. Khalil did not hear the shouts of the delighted Mujahideen. He could not feel the blacksmith's breath on his cheek, although the man's face was now only a few inches from his own. He was blacking out, with a sensation like a roar of water in his ears and a dark cloud rolling across his mind. But as he fell to the floor, a shot rang out, and the blacksmith threw him aside like a toy, while the whole company swiveled to see who was coming in through the cave's mouth. Adam fired into the air a second time, his face expressionless. Walking straight up to the crumpled Khalil, he struck him in the solar plexus once, carefully, with the butt of his revolver. With a great gasp, Khalil started to breathe again and to come to. The blacksmith and the others stood limply, like small boys caught stealing apples. Kush's calm was worse, they knew, than his fury. "Gather round." Adam sat down on his accustomed ledge while they ranged themselves in front of him to attention, in the military way which he had taught them. He looked at them until they were completely still, his grey eyes boring into theirs, lids unblinking. Then he spoke, deliberately using the rustic Dari, the common speech that they knew best. "I'm giving you a command now. If at any time, at any place, anyone starts to fight with anyone else without my orders and against a member of the group, both parties will be shot. I shall not shoot them, and neither will there be a trial of any kind. It will be the duty of any and every man who sees a fight start to shoot anyone else involved, and immediately without warning." he stopped. The atmosphere was crackling, as if there was electricity about. "If you accept this order," said the eagle, "raise your arm and say, 'Understood and accepted.'" He stuck his thumbs into his belt and stared again, straight at the standing figures. In a moment 30 hands were in the air. As Khalil came to full consciousness, the roaring in his ears was replaced by the shout, "We understand and submit, O our chief." Adam Durrani had been working day and night to weld his men into something like a fighting unit. The Pagman caves were the ideal hideout. The people were keen to fight. At the same time, few of the volunteers had military experience. They lacked arms and money, and there was, at first at least, little understanding of the need for training and equipment. Word had been reaching Pagman that arms were to be had on the frontier near Pakistan, that a man called Pendergood, or Paindagul, the abiding flower, was organizing supplies, a man who had no truck with the contending factions of exiled politicians there, and wanted only to help restore freedom. Khalil had little scope for his engineering skill here, Adam realized, but on the other hand he could be useful in a delegation, finding out about Pendergood and his arms. And he could take the German. It would mollify the blacksmith. After a discussion with Khalil and Bardolph, and excited talk about the possibilities of rockets, mines, machine guns from the fabled stores of the mysterious Pendergood, the Australian and a man from Dresden set off together. Dressed as Pashtun tribesmen, they slipped southwards through the valleys of the Kunar and Kabul rivers, travelling by day and night, 8 hours walking, then 4 hours for sleep.